Okay, and I'm going to share a screen. This here. Okay. Yeah. Oh, let's see. Can you, hey Dan, one more thing. Can you? Okay. Oh my gosh, it keeps going, kicking me off of mute. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, I think I'm gonna get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Anna, and we are Epic Events, the organizer of today's Fireside Chat with Phizzle's CIO and Head of Engineering, Vijji Suryadevara. Join us today for a casual conversational fireside chat with Vijji, where we will hear her story. We will discuss her background, her journey to where she is today, what keeps her busy these days, and her plans and ambitions for the future. Vijji Suryadevara is an accomplished entrepreneur and executive, passionate about using technology to make a difference. Vijji brings her technical and management skills to the role of CIO and head of engineering to build a scalable technology organization and innovation culture to enable rapid growth of Fizzle. Prior to Fizzle, Vijji was the founder, CEO, and CTO of CareerWays, a future of work startup. CareerWays is an AI-driven career and learning advisor helping users acquire in-demand skills. Vijji was also the founder and CEO of BPA Technologies, a VC-funded technology services focused on content management solutions for Fortune 500 companies. BPA was acquired by a Moody's Group company, ICRA, in 2012. Prior to this, she held technology leadership positions and architected and built enterprise solutions in content management and telecommunications domains. Vijji has a bachelor's in computer science, mathematics, and physics, and a master of computer applications from NIT Warrangal. All right.
You got my last name right. You know, most people
I was trying.
hesitate. No, you got it right. I'm
okay,
very
that's
happy.
good. Yeah, so Vijji, let's start with your background. Tell us about your childhood, where you grew up, what it was like, what your family was like.
Yeah. So thanks, Anna, for having me. I think this is exciting and interesting because I've never done a webinar-based event before. So this is fascinating, and this is the new days that we have.
Mhm.
In terms of my background, I grew up in India, in South India, in a coastal town called Vizag. Vizag is beautiful beaches and
Mm.
green hills. It's really a beautiful place, but it's a small city. So that was actually, we had the best of both worlds. On the one hand, we had a lot of interesting things happening, but it was still small enough. You were not in a big city. So
Mm.
that was, I love my hometown to this day. I go back every year.
Yeah.
And it helps that it's a beach town, so you can just hang out on the beach and enjoy yourself. So, but in terms of my family, we were from a middle class family. My parents had moved from their homes into the city. That was the first generation moving into the cities. Both of them didn't go to college, but they were very insistent that me and my sister, we were just two girls, which was also unusual in those days,
Yeah.
where most parents in India would want to have a boy.
Right.
And a lot of Asian families were like that,
Yeah.
not just
Yeah.
Indian, but yeah. So, however, my dad was the one who was like, no, these are my girls and these are my boys. And so I think he gave me the confidence in being whoever I am. I do attribute it to him and my mom for her support and never telling us, you're girls, you have to do this, especially coming from a kind of conservative part of
Yeah.
India. There's a lot of definitions of what girls are or what they should do and what they
Mm.
shouldn't do and so on. We were very lucky that our parents never put those restrictions on us and told us to just, try our best and do well in studies and go for it. So yeah, that's kind of where I grew up and how I grew up.
Nice. So when you were young, what were your interests? Were they similar to what they are now? And um, what were your earliest influences for what you would end up doing later in life?
Oh, that's fascinating. So again, again, we did not even have TV until we were maybe like 10 or something like that. That's when TV came all over India. It was there only in the capital for the first few years.
Mm.
So, we did not have that much influence, outside influence. It was kind of a little bit more isolated, but we had a beautiful place that we grew up in. And it didn't matter that you grew up in a one-bedroom home, right? We were just happy and enjoying ourselves and running out and playing out and doing stuff like that. But my really first influence was when the TV came, Star Trek came, and I'm a total geek, and Star Trek was like eye-opening for me because, it was just mesmerizing, all these worlds and the possibilities and these ideas. And, maybe that's the first time I had heard of a computer. I
Mm.
had never seen one until actually I started my bachelor's. Most Indians in those days did not have computers and they didn't have access to those kinds of things. So, but I would say Star Trek certainly was a huge influence for me. For the
Mm.
longest time, I wanted to become an astronaut.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it's unusual. I mean, it's a very common thing in the US. In India, it wasn't common. I
Oh,
didn't even know how you could become an astronaut.
I mean, I'm not sure how common it is here.
I
Um,
know.
but yeah, I mean, I guess
So,
more common and definitely
yeah.
for women to aspire to be one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually wrote to the chairman of ISRO. ISRO is like NASA in the US.
Oh my
And
God.
I was probably like maybe 12 or something like that saying, what do I have to do? I want to become an astronaut.
Oh
And
my
he said, you
God.
study physics. So I went on to study, and I loved physics anyway. So, but physics was a big part of what I was. And one of the reasons was that, like, oh, someday I want to be an astronaut. But later I realized that, they typically took the astronauts from the Indian Air Force, and the Indian Air Force pilots were all men. Women
Oh
were
my
not.
God. Right. Right.
But that's okay. It was a good influence, though. It turned me to physics, and I love physics to this day. So I absolutely enjoy that. And to this day, I'm a Trekkie. Any Star Trek, anytime on TV, I'm just sitting and watching. So
Right. And oh my God, I just realized when I commented on your astronaut statement, that I was saying, because I was still envisioning you here in the US. And yeah, my statement was totally wrong. I mean, yeah, because yeah, right. It's very, very unusual for just anyone really to be like, I want to be an astronaut, and then definitely to even write a letter,
Yeah,
um,
I
and to
know.
have his and to have his response, influence you. It sounded like you were already interested in physics, but it's like his response reinforced, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
what you
He
liked.
was very kind, that
Yes,
gentleman, he
yeah,
didn't
for
know this some
responding.
kid writes from somewhere. And his name was U.R. Rao in those days. He was heading whole of it was like a NASA, it was the whole space program in India. And this
Yeah.
man, takes time. And he really influenced me. I don't know where he is, and absolutely. So
So, so is your sister similar to you? Does she have a similar
yes.
interest? Oh wow, you
Yes,
guys are the
not
total
not
rock
not
stars.
in physics as much, but she's kind of done similar things. She went into technology. She went to my same school.
Yeah.
Not that she liked it, but she did go to the same.
Wow.
She didn't want to be in the same school as her sister, but
Right. But
we did
can't help
end up
it when you kind of
together.
have similar interests, and yeah. Wow, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, so take us through school. What did you do in school? How did you make your decision? I think we just heard a little bit about you loving physics, and that's part of why you took it, but you actually ended up majoring in three majors. How did that happen?
Yeah.
I
So,
mean,
I mean, this is not extremely unusual in where I come from in my state in India. You could major in three majors, but my majors were math, physics, and computers was brand new. We were pretty much the first batch that was doing computer science in a bachelor's degree and a science degree.
yeah,
So
that's
we
amazing in
were kind of,
itself. Because you
yeah,
mentioned that you didn't see a computer until college.
no,
I mean,
no, we did, and was absolutely in the first year itself. I was this is it. I want to do computers and nothing else. So I was decided at that point. I was absolutely in love. I mean, it was fascinating to me that with just zeros and ones, you could encapsulate so much of human intelligence. That's how I look at computers. I don't look at them as tools. I look at them, programs are a way to encapsulate our thought, our intelligence, and
hmm,
put it into a machine. And so that's how I look at programming. I don't look at it as like, some commands or code. I think of it as a thought process that you're capturing. So yeah, that was a big deal for me. And after that, when I got into NIT, which was really hard to get into, it's a very good institution in India.
mhm.
And I didn't think I will get in. Not that I was bad at it, but it was so hard. The entrance exam was so hard. I came back saying, there's no way I'm getting in. I couldn't finish it. Turned out most people couldn't finish it. So luckily I got in. So,
Right.
but I did well at school. I did very well. Computers was easy for me. I would do, I didn't have to memorize anything. That's another advantage when you study computers. You're not memorizing stuff.
You're right.
If you go into biology or something like that, you have to know all the names, all the species, and this and that. In computers, you're not really memorizing, you're just solving problems. And that comes, for some people that's fun. And for me, it was fun. So I absolutely
Wow.
enjoyed it.
Yes.
And yeah.
So what were some activities that you did in college?
Oh my goodness.
If you had time, that is, because I mean, for
No,
me,
I did. I was very active. I was a good debater. So from when I was about 16, I started doing debates, and I would win all the debates. The first one was a major disaster, and I basically
you learned from
froze.
that one. Yeah.
Yes, I absolutely did. So the second one, I still remember, I was about 16 or 17, and it was my 11th or 12th grade, the equivalent 11th or 12th grade, and I made such a fool of myself the first time. But the second topic was, do women need more opportunities or more rights? And I just couldn't stop myself because I was very passionate about women's rights and stuff. So I had to go speak. And then I was like, they're going to laugh at me. I'm going to freeze again. And I said, okay, it already happened. So what's the worst that can happen? It'll repeat. So let me do it. And I did not fail. And from that day, I did not fail. So that really taught me to take failure and not worry about failure and just go for it again and try again. So Yeah, so I was very active in debates. I was active in other activities and in school. I was an editor for the school paper in my master's program. So I would do many different things. I was very interested in talking to people and meeting people and doing stuff.
Wow. Yeah, I'm still just mostly, actually it does, I think the pattern is that you actually excel at things that you have to do almost on the spot. Um, and it requires a lot of creativity, um, and a lot of almost ingenuity. And I think like with computers, it's, with code, and it's thinking up of new, whether it's like in the actual program itself, thinking of up of new ways of writing code. And then it seems like also with speech, it's, coming up with a new way for words and to make an argument,
Right.
for an
Exactly.
purpose. Yeah, in both.
Exactly. So
Okay. That's really cool.
it's basically thinking through and kind of formulating an argument or formulating a way to solve a problem. And that can convince other people in terms of a debate, because you're debating with many other people. We used to play charades too, by the way, which was also a lot of fun, where you're not talking at all, but uh, but we would win. And this was an all-girls team in an engineering college, which was unusual. There were like 20 boys teams and there was one girls team. And first they were booing us, and then we were so good that they started, championing us, and we were like inter-college champions. So we would do a lot of fun things. We had a lot of fun in college.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Show them,
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
Never step back. Don't let them tell you what you
Right.
can do or you cannot do.
Totally. Totally. So what happened after college? Take us through, how you decided to, how you made your career decisions.
Yeah. So I got my first job through campus interviews. In fact, I had two offers. One was from Siemens Communication Software, so telecom, and second one was also interesting.
I think we're kind of frozen a little bit. Vijji? Uh-oh. We may have lost Vijji. We'll give her a few minutes. Uh-oh. We'll give her a minute to rejoin us. I hope you guys in the audience are doing well tonight. Oh, there we go. Yay!
Sorry about that. Looks like I lost my internet connection for a few minutes.
But you're back. That's all that matters.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So I don't know how much of that you got, but I started with Siemens.
Right, I think it was like the beginning of your talk for that
Awesome.
question.
Awesome. So as I was mentioning, I had I had decided to join Siemens because of the system software aspect of it. I was really interested in going into devices and systems. So with Fizzle now, with my work, it's kind of a full circle that I'm back again into devices and systems kind of software after having worked for many years in between on the application side. But yeah, I then moved to Germany, lived there for about a year and a half, continued to work in telecom industry, but more on the application side. And then I moved to the US, worked for a company out of East Coast, went back into telecom, then came to Bay Area and started my first company in 2004.
Okay, wow. And yeah, so tell us how that happened.
So from when I was very young, I did want to start my own company. That was something that
Huh.
I had always said, as a young person. Even my friends from college would say, I remember you telling me someday you want to start your own company. So that was something I had in my mind, that I would do it someday. I would like to have my own company someday. I didn't know what it would be, but it was just that I want to own a company someday. I want to be my own boss someday. So
Mhm. And do you know where it came from?
I think I just don't like to be told what to do. So no, that's part of it. But I think when you come from a background like me, out of South India, people are not telling you you're like inferior, but they kind of there's a presumption that women can only do these things and men can do these things, right?
Mhm.
And I was always like, no, I can do anything others are doing, right? So
Yeah.
that was always my. So you work extra hard to prove yourself. You set goals that
Mhm.
are even higher, even whether you fail or succeed. You're like, no, I will prove you wrong. You're telling me all I can do is stay home. I'll show you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of getting goosebumps actually hearing like yes, definitely. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so I think part of it is that, and my father also was having a business at some point, and it's a
Okay.
small business, but I did help him. It was in heat exchanges. It was completely different. It kind of physics, but
Oh yeah,
actual
that
physical
sounds
blue collar kind of work. Yeah,
heat exchanges.
yeah. So they would make heat exchangers, which are used in large industries, in manufacturing industries.
Huh.
So he was an expert at that. Even though he didn't go to college, he
Wow.
dropped out after the first day.
Really?
But then he was so good. And that's another thing that taught me in life, that don't underestimate people just because they don't have a college degree or
Right.
they didn't go to a school like you. There are
Right.
very bright people around you who did not have an opportunity to go to college or to go to school. Um, but that doesn't mean they're not capable. So that's something that I always think about. But yeah, so I would become his like assistant, getting all his paperwork together. And so that's something that was very interesting. But primarily, I think it was more like, oh, I would like to be my own boss. I would like to be the one who creates jobs for others. So yeah, that was something that I cared about. Anna, I think you're muted.
Oh, I am. So yeah. So what was the first company? Sorry.
Yeah, so my first company was actually a services-based company, but it was a very boutique services company. We only did content management, but for very large firms like Chevron, Cisco, Wells Fargo, Equinix, Juniper, anybody you can think of in Bay Area, we have worked with them.
Oh.
But we were very boutique in terms of what we would do. And so once I started the company, it started growing. Initially, it was more frustration. The company I was working for before, I was working so hard, and I had two small children.
Mhm.
But they would not take care of me, even though I knew I was putting all the proposals together. I know how much money I was making for them, and
Yeah.
I wasn't even asking for much, right?
Mhm.
And they were, this is something a lot of people face, and especially women face when you're
Yeah.
at workplace. Asking for a raise, asking for what is your due is a hard thing.
Mhm.
And I went to my boss and said, hey, this is not fair. This is not what we agreed upon. Look how much I'm working for you, how much I'm bringing you, right? Then there should be a fair compensation. Whereas other people who were working with me were getting the raises because they would go and talk to the boss and be nice to the
Mm.
boss. But
Mhm. Yeah.
and so these kinds of issues everybody faces. It's not unusual for me, but that was kind of a breaking point where I said, okay, I've always wanted to do something on my own. So maybe this is the time. Instead of working in a job that you're very unhappy, I would like to do something on my own. It was not an easy decision. As I said, I had very small children.
Yeah.
My husband was consulting at that point. So health insurance was with me. My
Mm.
kids were
Yeah.
1 and 4, you know,
Yeah.
um, very risky at that point. And as an immigrant, you do not have a safety net.
Mm.
If you
Right.
fail, you don't have your mom's garage to go back to,
Right.
or friends who can support you, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Any
you
family
will.
kind of far away. You know, you can't
Far
kind of
away,
move back
they
into
cannot
the
take care
area.
of you.
Right.
Yeah, so it is risky, but that's life. You have to take risk to succeed. And so luckily for me, it did work out. And then I then brought in a partner who I had worked with in my previous company, who headed the sales side of things. And then we got some funding a couple of years later. Some actually a private equity fund came in and
Oh,
put
wow.
some money in us. And we grew to have two offices in India, one in Singapore, one in US, and about 120 people at that point we got bought.
Wow.
And yeah, so I said I'm retiring at that point.
And so how many
But
years was
that
that?
didn't last very long.
Oh, yeah, that's
I'm
it.
sorry.
Yeah, right. Because you couldn't stop.
No.
Right.
I think that's just a dream we all have, that I will retire, but you will go crazy after
Right. I
like maybe
think
3 months.
totally. I don't think we'll actually be happy not doing something we care about.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah. So what happened afterwards?
after that, I was looking around and seeing these waves of changes coming in technology, in terms of big data was already there, mobile was already there, AI was just starting, IoT was starting. And I felt the need that when I came out, I was a very technical person, but as my company grew, I became less and less hands-on, because there was a lot more management and customer facing stuff, and those kinds of things you don't code much anymore.
Right.
So when I came out, I'm like, oh wow, AI is here. And AI was something I was really interested in, even in school. So I was like, oh, we used to call them neural nets, and now it is all deep learning, and I
Yeah.
want to try
Right.
it. And then you go and try to learn, and you start these courses and you stop them because they're talking about something that you forgot, linear algebra, and I haven't done linear algebra in a long time.
Right.
And so I felt like there is a need for people to learn skills and continuously upgrade their skills, and this is only going to get worse as we continue to grow and become more and more rapid innovation is happening. People will have to update their skills constantly. And that was where the thought process came, that, there is really a need for an advisor, somebody who is, who's got your back, basically, who tells you, hey, this is what is happening in the marketplace. Here are the opportunities. This is what you need to do to get into these kinds of jobs. And here is where you can learn the skills you need. And that was kind of the seed of that company. So I started that product company. We got some really good uh, customers.
So
We
this
got
one
some
was a product
funding.
company? Did you say this one
I'm
was a
sorry.
product? Did you say
This
this
is
one
a
was?
product company.
Okay.
Yes.
So what
Yeah.
was the product?
Career Ways was an AI-driven
Oh,
product.
right.
Basically, it was an app and online presence. And we were initially targeting enterprises, because enterprises were also interested in making sure their employees are upgraded and updated with the technologies, and also provided opportunities so they can grow. Otherwise, they leave. Right? Bay Area, especially, is such a tight market. You don't want to lose your good resources because they are stagnant and they feel like they're not learning anything new,
Right.
or they feel like they're not earning more without providing that kind of openness. So that was where we were. We raised some funding, but it was interesting experience for me, because this time I had to go to venture capitalists to try to raise funding.
Right. I'm actually still surprised that a private equity shop was involved with your first company, because they don't typically go into startups.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
So
And now you learned venture capital with
the
your
other
second
way.
company. Like,
Yeah, so, and that was a eye-opening experience for
yeah.
me. In my first company, I had primarily dealt with enterprises as my customers, as my partners, and I didn't find as much of a barrier for entry because I'm a woman, or
Right.
immigrant, or any of those things. But I felt on the venture capitalist side, I think the stereotypes are much stronger.
Huh.
Not that that's the only reason you don't raise money, but it's absolutely there.
Yeah, it's definitely there. Yeah.
So that
Right.
was interesting.
Mm.
And I said, this is an interesting experience. Even
Mm.
though you have had a success and done something, people still are like, oh, I
Right.
don't know you. So why don't you come back once you have 1 million in revenue, right? So I think it's a chicken and egg problem for a lot of female entrepreneurs that if they don't get seed funding, they can't get to the next level.
Right.
And luckily we did have some investors, private angel funding, who came in and put in money. But however, we got a merger offer. And so we decided, some of our competitors were really big. They were raising huge amounts of money. And at that point, either you should raise similar amount of money or you should join forces with similar companies where you can try to grow. So while that was happening, I got a call from Ben. I knew Ben, who is the CEO of Fizzle.
Okay.
And so he was advising on the sales side. He was advising career ways. And so he called and said, hey, what's going on? And this was about a year ago. And I said, yeah, we're going through this and this is what is happening. He said, oh, you know what, Fizzle, we're doing this. We need help. Can you come? Can you join us? So that was an interesting conversation. And I've always respected Ben and we got along really well. And he has a vision for what IoT should be. So we've been talking about this for a couple of years, even before he asked me to come over.
Wow.
And it was an interesting experience also because being on my own for almost 15 years, going back and working for another.
Uh-oh. I think we may have lost Vijji again, possibly. We're going to give her a minute again. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
You're saying,
I don't know. Yes. So that's how I got into Fizzle. Fizzle is a really cool company, both in terms of the technology, the space we are in, and then the team that is there, right? I think that's a trifecta for any kind of successful company. So I'm really glad that happened and I'm here now with Fizzle. So
yeah, and now you're going to have to tell us all about Fizzle.
The good segue into Fizzle. But yeah, so Fizzle, as I was saying earlier, it's the first IoT company that has come through with 5x performance in computational speeds, right? So when you look at IoT, the initial wave of IoT applications have been primarily about collecting data from sensors and sending all this information to some cloud server or some kind of server in your company that analyzes the information and sends back that notification to somebody saying, looks like something is happening, you should look at this. There were, of course, some small things you could do, like if nobody is in the room, then turn off the lights, or the temperature can be managed because of certain preset criteria. But true operational kind of IoT was not in place. Primarily around facilities management, that kind of use cases were in IoT. But as more and more devices are connecting and are coming online with sensors and data, the whole issue of how will we handle all this data, where will we send it, how will we manage it, becomes a huge issue. And that's where the whole edge computing piece comes in, is that you don't try to send hundreds of thousands of data points per second upstream to a server. Instead, you make decisions closest to where this data is coming from. Okay. So for example, if you're looking at a roadway and there's a segment of roadway where there are many cars going and there has been an accident, you don't want that information to go all the way back to a server in the cloud and come back with a signal saying slow down to everybody, right? You want that to happen instantaneously because the cars will start crashing into one another. You want to change the signals right there. So that's a simplistic use case, but there are a lot of use cases like that where you require to manage the data closest to and make decisions closest to where the data is emanating from. And so that's where the edge computing is coming really in the forefront of technology. And what Fizzle has done and what we announced last week is this EdgeMaker stack, which is basically breaking through with a 5x performance, where you can take these small routers, which are only 40-watt routers, right? These small devices, on which we are able to run server grade performance because of the software and the way our software stack works. So that has been the exciting thing that Fizzle is doing. And we've announced a partnership with Cisco,
Yes.
and we are having a solution with pharma. So yeah.
Yeah. So can you tell us, so with Cisco and pharma, so where exactly in a pharmaceutical or division of Cisco, right? It's their division. So how exactly are they using it, and what other companies out there stand to gain the most right now?
Yeah. Yeah. So what we are doing is, so the software stack we have, the technology we have can work for any industry. So we are focused on 3 industries as our primary goal. One is the pharmaceutical industry, like, all kinds of pharma companies that you know of have a lot of requirement to manage data and to manage all these devices because they have stringent regulations as
Right.
to how to manufacture, how to do experiments, how to conduct trials. All these are very regulated industries where they require a lot of instruments that need to work and do certain things every day.
Mhm.
And currently, all this is done manually, where people are basically going from room to room to check the air quality. And they have to do it every single day.
Huh.
And this is all mandated, right? And they're going and typing in the air quality meter saying that, these are called particle counters. So they go to one room, first go to one place, one location in the room, they'll make a reading, they'll see whether the room is clean. It's a clean room because whether they're doing experiments or whether they're making medicines, it has to be a clean room. So they do this all day long, every day. And this is like such a waste of time because not only are they going room to room, they actually get paper output, which shows what the readings are.
Huh.
They collect all these papers, sign them, take them to a server when they're done, enter all this stuff. And because manual entry can be error prone, they have to have one more person standing over looking and making sure this is working
Huh.
and everything has been entered accurately. It's not just for accurate information because it's regulated, right? So ending them really bad if they don't have, proof that they have done these things and they have checked that, and the lab or the manufacturing floor is clean as it's supposed to be. So that has been one of our first thing that we've did is to provide these. So Cisco and we are partnering together. Cisco is partnering with us and taking this solution to the pharmaceutical companies. So we have a pharmaceutical Fortune 100 company that became a customer to our solution, which is going to reduce their OpEx in millions and millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, in addition to speeding up their time to market, because they can now focus all their effort in their true work, which is
Right.
actually conducting experiments, producing medicines, not walking around checking the quality of the room. That's not their core job. Right?
Right.
Not that that'll go away. There will still be people looking at the data. Now they will only look at the data and make a decision as, okay, we have to do something to clean this room now, rather than just walk around with that machine and take information. So that's just one part of the example. There are many, many more instruments like that you can bring online. You control the device, you send the commands to the device, you do some measurements, you get the data back, you process the data, and then you make decisions and again send back some information to the device. So it's a full end-to-end operational IoT. So it's not just like facilities kind of IoT. This is true operational IoT.
Right. And I mean, how long when you joined Fizzle, did you know this was on the radar?
So the solution for this particular industry was not on the radar, but the technology vision was there, and the initial part of the technology was being built. The core ideas were there, and the core core technology was there. Now we had to expand it out to really implement it full-fledged from end to end. And
Right.
so that is where I was able to come in and help kind of, I play two different roles. One is the CIO and one is the head of engineering. So
Right.
these are two very different and interesting roles, but coming from a startup background, you're used to doing multiple things at the
Yeah.
same time. So,
Yeah. And so you're doubly
as you
possible.
know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's what we did. We, as a head of engineering, I'm very involved in the design of the product, kind of the product management aspect of it, the design and architecture of it, and then the people management piece, right? Hiring the engineers, training them, delivery, and putting processes in place so we can, quality assurance is a huge deal for these kinds of solutions, so all these things has been a really interesting aspect. As a CIO, you're more focused on selecting the right software to enable your company to work well, setting up all those infrastructure, internal and external, that you require. So it's kind of combined. At some point, I'm sure we'll split the roles, but for now, I play both those roles. So.
Right. And I mean, I think it's, he's very lucky that it's one person who's able to,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's a stellar team already in Phizzle, and that was one of the things I told him that, hey, I need to meet not just you, because I knew Ben and Ben knew me, but I would like to meet the rest of the team. And I came and met them, and that's something very important. Anybody who's thinking of either starting a startup or going and working for a startup, don't just think of the money and technology, think of the people. You are going to spend long days and many nights on calls with these people.
Yeah.
And if you don't like them, you don't get along with them, it's not worth it. So
yes, so
that was really important.
Can you describe Fizzle's people?
Oh, absolutely. So they are all very talented people. So I talked about Ben. He's anybody, I think he can sell anything to anyone, He's one of those people and you won't even realize he sold something to you. So, a great person, great leadership skills. He knows how to get the best out of people. And I think that's very important. I've run companies too, so I know that skill is an extremely important thing, to understand who is good at what and how to give them the space that they can perform the best. So that's him. Then we have our CTO, Ryan, and he is an absolute technologist at heart, a hacker and a technologist. And he's always thinking about how to optimize stuff and how to come up with, groundbreaking things. So he's a great guy, extremely friendly. We all get along really well. That was really important for me. And then we have Carrie, who is our VP of customer success. I think she's like everything in the company, just kind of the backbone of our company. So, so we have a lot of wonderful people. And I think that's extremely important to me. So that was something I was very insistent that, hey, I want to meet everyone before I make my decision. And so, yeah, I think that's something everybody should consider, especially in startups. You will get to know these people really, really well. So, yeah.
How, and you pretty much knew right away when you spent like a day with them? Is that how it happened?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. And I also had like individual meetings. I actually asked to meet some of the technical folks, because when somebody has started something and another person comes in, they will bring their own perspective, right? And there should not be that kind of friction between the existing team and the new team that comes in. And so I wanted to make sure that we were all comfortable with each other. We disagree sometimes on technology, how we're going to go forward, but we respect each other's opinion, that we're able to convince each other. Either I get convinced or they get convinced, and we work very well together. So yeah, within a day we pretty much, and I met the board, some of the board members, and yeah.
Nice. So has COVID affected you guys at all?
It has, because we were doing this big launch, and we had our, we were going to go, and in good and bad way. The bad way is, of course, that some of our plans had to change because of we are all working out of our home. We cannot do certain things. Interestingly enough, we don't have access to our labs, but then that kind of proves the point, that if we are able to use our solution to manage our lab remotely,
you go in the lab. labs anymore. You
Right.
have sensors doing everything.
Exactly. So even though it was initial, we had to adapt to it, but it was actually great because we are now able to show, hey, look, we have a webcam. You can see it's working, and
Yeah.
we are not there to work with it. And this lab is sitting somewhere, and we are somewhere, and it's all working fine.
Yeah.
So that's been an interesting aspect. So.
So, what do you see? Where do you see Fizzle and the specific technology solution that you guys are providing being in the in the present and in the near term future?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because if I did not see potential in this company, I wouldn't even join them, right?
Right.
Even though you like somebody, you also want to do work that's meaningful. And the work we are doing is quite significant, in terms of the breakthrough we achieved. And a lot of people put out press releases and stuff, right? But we have numbers to prove what we are saying.
Mhm.
And we have actual use case and actual customer who is coming on board and spending, a huge amount of money to take our solution and use it, not just pilot it. So we're very excited, and Cisco is a huge partnership for us. Cisco doesn't, partner with anybody, and it's a huge company.
Right.
And they chose us above many other companies. So that's been exciting. In terms of where we think the market will be, I think the edge computing is the way that'll go. As 5G becomes more prevalent in enterprises and manufacturing floors, there's going to be a lot of bandwidth on the edge
Yeah.
than the bandwidth from the edge to the cloud, right?
Right.
I think the future is not going to be, let's send everything to the cloud. It's not going to happen, right? If you think about it, you have a corridor where there's constantly you're doing video surveillance. Does it make sense to send all that data or only when somebody is moving?
Right. Only when someone is moving.
Right? It
When
doesn't
it's
make sense.
relevant data.
Right now, majority of them are blindly forwarding everything, right? But what we do is we have our own technology. We call it regenerative IoT.
Hmm.
And we have like 3 principles that we used. Everybody can go to our website. I don't want to get very technical about it, but please go to our website, Fizzle.com, and download our white paper. It's really exciting because I think what we are seeing is the future where um, when we have the kind of technology we have, we can actually merge the AI and IoT into one product. And that is where the future will be. The true value of IoT will come into play when we do the edge computing, and then when we close that loop with an AI or a personal decision maker with analytics insights on the other end. So we're very excited. I believe that Fizzle will be one of the leaders in this technology, and you'll hear more and more about us.
Yes, that's what we're looking forward to. Yeah. So outside of Fizzle, what's keeping you busy these days? And interested. Busy and interested. Oh, okay. We'll give her a minute.
Hidden some.
There
Yeah.
you are. Yay.
Yeah, so I'm also really interested in some social aspects of things. I am one of the founders of a nonprofit called Simandra Forum. So when this COVID-19 happened, the lockdown happened in India too. So we work with a lot of like educational institutions in some really underserved communities and try to help them to bring up the standard of the school so all those kids can actually have a better education. But this time, because the COVID-19 was such a unusual circumstance, people were not having the safety net. Even in the US, we see so much hunger and the whole inequality thing. We talk a lot about it, but truly now you can see the difference, right? Who got impacted and who did not, with numbers. And this is even more prevalent in places like India, where the safety net is not strong. So we actually have supported an organization in India, partnering with them and giving groceries for families. We did the first phase of 150 families. We gave them groceries for a month. So doing things like that, that really makes it also, it's an important part of who I am. And I really am passionate about that. So yeah, a lot of my weekends are there.
When did you start?
So I started this up. Yeah, so I started about 3 or 4 years ago. There was a huge cyclone from the place I came from. You know, I told you Vizag is a coastal
Right.
city,
Yes.
and there's a huge devastation happened because of that cyclone. And
Oh,
unfortunately, even though India is doing extremely well in saving lives, in making sure people don't die in cyclones like this, rebuilding efforts are very spotty. You know, some places they do well, some places they don't. It's just a matter of money, right? And
yeah.
especially if you're like in a far off, underserved community, there is nobody standing up for you to help you out.
I'm sure she's gonna come back very soon. Oh, the last part of that sentence.
Yeah, so basically that cyclone was the trigger for me to say that,
Okay.
you know, there are underserved communities that require help. And I really believe that, you know, when you're able to, you should help. So that's how I got started. And
Right.
a group of friends came together. And the first project I did on my own, rebuilt a school water tank to give
Wow.
them fresh water. And then we start, you know, other friends came and said, hey, we want to be part of this too. Then we made it into a proper nonprofit, a 501c. And that does take up a lot of my time in the weekends.
Yeah. Well, did you do it? Did you go back to do that? Like to select the school that you're gonna work with? How did you
Oh, that's
make?
interesting. So since I had employees who were from that area,
Oh, okay.
before I started the 501c, right, I just reached out to them and said, hey, I know there was a lot of devastation. If in
Right.
any of your villages or these small places where either a school or a hospital had damage, then I would like to help, right? Because then when you're helping that, then many people get helped when you're, you know, taking care of something like that.
Right.
And so one of my ex-employees said, hey, you know, I knew that he came from this really small village and he was the first person to go to college in that whole village. And so I knew he was very passionate. So he brought that project to me. And
Mm.
from then I have some volunteers in India. So it's an all volunteer organization. It's a small
Right.
organization, but hopefully someday we can grow more. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think whatever good you can do, I really believe that, you know, it doesn't matter the size of your contribution, whether time or money, but that you did something. So
Mhm.
whether you
Yeah.
contribute to your local food bank, you know, contribute money, whatever you do, participate and help people when you can.
Yeah. And you just told us about what you guys are doing right now for people affected by COVID. Is it possible for you to share a link or something
Oh,
with?
absolutely. We even have a GoFundMe fundraiser. It's the organization is called Seemandhra Forum. Um, and there is a GoFundMe. If you look for GoFundMe COVID-19 fundraiser and say Seemandhra Forum, SEEMANDHRA. And I can send the link later too. I can share, and
Okay.
maybe in your
Yeah.
Eventbrite, I can post in
Yeah,
the
that
event.
was great.
Yeah, I would. It would be awesome if people can contribute because every penny goes to the people, and these people actually need the help. So,
Yeah.
and we are even trying for the next distribution to have it on Zoom, so anybody who
Oh, wow.
contributes can actually
Yeah.
see the people who they are helping.
Yeah,
You know?
that's awesome.
So, yeah.
When are you scheduling the next I guess the next food drop or
Yeah, so I think it'll be in this week or so. We already did a couple, but probably in this week or next week. So the dates are getting finalized, but it'll be certainly in the next few days.
okay.
The
Awesome.
need is immediate. So I think
Right.
for us, you know, I'm sure we'll do other things long term, but this is like right now. So we are partnering with an organization in India who's really good, somebody we know very well. And so because we can't go there, and
Yeah. Right. No,
this
yeah.
COVID-19
Everyone's
even
stuck in their in their
exactly. So you need to find people who are already kind of have that connections and make that can do this distribution for you. So they have the connections and they have the government approval to travel. Even travel is not easy, right? You can't just
right.
go around doing whatever you want. So it's very strict in India.
Mm.
So yeah, we're very excited. I think every person you help, you're helping. So it's like $25 per family for a month of groceries. So it's not much. So people can contribute whatever they can. Yeah. Thanks for plugging, helping me plug that in. It wasn't planned, but
No, right. And if actually, that's why I was like, if you want to put it into the chat, that would be amazing.
Oh yeah, okay.
Or
Let me
we
do
can
that.
share it later
Sure.
too.
Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah. And my last question for you, as you are typing, is, so what are your plans and ambitions for the, for this coming year, and then for the foreseeable future?
I think
both personally and professionally.
Yeah, I think we went over, maybe we were having all these disruptions, but still, yeah, I think for this year, I think this COVID-19 has been very interesting in the sense that, it teaches you to kind of take a step back and look at what is important in life, right?
Mhm.
Because so many people are suffering, and yes, it is inconvenient, but you're okay, your family is okay, and you should count your blessings. So I'm really glad, and I'm hoping that we come out of this and everybody is doing well. So this year is primarily work focused, and want to make sure that our product is scaling, and we are going and getting more and more customers, and that's something that we want to do. Longer term, I would certainly like to spend more time on my social activities, social work that I'm doing. So yeah.
Right. Nice. I have these silly questions. But if you need a minute to like type out the actual link,
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll just get
please do
1
it.
second to get that out.
And we actually have a question from the audience. I'm gonna.
Oh wow, okay.
So Suryadevara, I think that's how you. I'm going to allow you to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, hi. I don't want to show my COVID face, actually, with the long hair and stuff. So, hey, Vijji, it was great, knowing about you. You're always inspiring a lot of youngsters and, a lot of IT professionals in the Bay Area, and really fortunate to be with you on the session. And really one question regarding your company and regarding the IoT and AI I think so you're collecting a lot of information which is pertaining to the privacy required. So what are your steps on, looking on the regulations which has been kept on the California Privacy Act and stuff? So are you looking on to that and trying to implement those kind of ideas to your products?
Yeah, that's a good question, Srinivas. Thanks for asking. What we are working on currently, even though the Privacy Act doesn't directly influence us, however, the whole security aspect of IoT is a big deal. Because as you're sending more and more information back and forth, whether it is car data as to where the car is going, or your Ring doorbell is sending information back to the cloud, and that gets hacked, and somebody is getting into your your kid's room or something like that, right? That security is going to be a bigger and bigger issue, both in enterprises and consumer space. So that's something that we are very conscious about. One thing we do is to have a fully encrypted pipeline all the way from the edge to the analytics platform or the AI platform, all the way to the other end. And the second part is we really don't send as much data as the other systems do, right? We do a lot of processing on the edge itself. So that reduces some amount of, what happens is a lot of companies know about encryption. They don't do it because it'll slow down the whole pipeline, right? If you're producing so much data every second, if you want to encrypt each of it and decrypt each of it, the whole thing will slow down and the IoT platform won't work. And that limitation goes away when we have our kind of performance with that 40-watt performance. On a 40-watt device, we have a server level performance, and we are able to handle all of that on the edge and send much lesser volume of data, and we are able to encrypt it all the way. And that has really helped us protect the data also. And pharma also is a huge huge issue, right? They don't want any of their data to be lost, both for regulatory reasons and IP reasons. It's a highly competitive industry. So that was one of their main selection points also into how they selected the solution.
So are you looking on the options of having a cloud-based kind of storage, or you have physical kind of storage locations?
So it can be either. It can be on-prem or in the cloud. But however, right, the whole point of edge solutions is we don't rely as much on the cloud. There will still be a cloud-based component, which is primarily dealing with long-term analytics and decision-making that are more long-term. But any real-time application-related decision-making happens on the edge. So the need for a huge amount of data transfer back and forth to the cloud is reduced in our kind of industry or our technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijji. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I wanted to ask 2 quick questions before we wrap up. And these are designed. Oh, and while you type, sorry, we keep interrupting and not giving you a chance to share your link at all.
No worries. Go ahead and speak while I try to capture it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can think about this one.
Okay.
So first question, if you can have an unlimited supply of one thing for the rest of your life, what is that one thing?
What is the one thing? Chocolate.
Chocolate. Nice. And what kind of chocolate?
Semi-sweet or dark. Yeah.
Or dark. Yeah. I recently tried, I believe, was it 100%? Was it 100%? It was 100%. It was literally like the bitterest thing I've ever eaten.
Oh, really?
It was from Trader Joe's. So it was very interesting. It was.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever tried 100%?
I haven't.
I know.
So that would be something I should try.
Yeah, right. And we just kind of was like, oh, it's over there. There was something read online about it. And so we tried it. It was crazy. And one more thing. If you could have someone follow you around all day, all the time, like a personal assistant, what would you have them do?
Oh, 2 things for me. One would be to remember names because I'm terrible.
Yes.
I want them to be my second brain, that stores all the information that I don't store. And the other thing, other than managing my calendar and setting up my meetings, to also do thank you notes. I always want to do thank you notes. I never get around. I'm terrible at that. And I feel so bad. And so, yeah, please remember all the names that I forget. And please remember the thank you notes and I'll be happy.
All right. Thank you. All right. So and actually while I still want to give you a chance to share your link. Oh, there we go.
All right.
All right. Did you just create a bit.ly link while we were talking?
Yes.
That's amazing. Yes.
I'm a technologist, right?
Yes,
I mean, I should be able to do that.
Like, must create bit.ly link, not showing the original link. Yes. So Vijji, thank you so much for joining us for this fireside chat. It was amazing and revealing, and actually very inspirational to hear about your background, because you did a lot of things that were against the norm. So that was awesome. And to you people in the audience joining us, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope everyone has a great night and see you guys in the future for other future upcoming events. Thank you. Have a great
day,
everyone.
Anna. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, wait, Vijji, we should take a picture. Hold on. I always screw this up. While everyone is watching, we're gonna, let's see. Yeah. Okay, 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry
everyone.
about the disconnects. I think the day you want it to be stable is when you'll have disconnects, but that's all right.
What
That's
always
life.
happens. That's what always happens. And
All right.
yes, everyone stay safe and good night.
Thank you.